Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and today we're talking about the Bataleon Cameleon. I rode this with Union Force, Bataleon Acid Boa boots, Ride Deadbolt boots, and Bataleon Astro bindings. I got this in a decent amount of conditions, some good spring groomers at the end of the season, but I also lucked into a little bit of powder and some wet storms as well. So it was a lot better of a test than I thought it would be when I requested these boards so late in the season. First off, let's talk sizing. This 161 was too big for me. I'm used to riding boards much wider for my boot size. I could manage this, but I felt too far away from the edges to properly control this. This would do much better if you're like a 10.5 and 11.5 instead of a 9. And as far as weight goes, I felt middle ground for this, a little bit on the light side. So I definitely like to try a 57. So let's talk snowboard dating app, some things that'll make you want to swipe right. This is incredibly poppy. It likes center-weighted turning despite being tapered and directional. It's very forgiving. It's got pretty good float and powder, some things that'll make you want to swipe left. Edge hold is lacking in hard snow by a good bit. In soft, uneven snow, this bucked and bounced me around way too much for my taste. And as you know, we put out honest, objective, unbiased reviews without any brand oversight, and we can do that thanks to the support of Blauer Board Shop. They have a strong presence online, so if you want to support the Good Ride and keep objective reviews flowing, check out Blauer Board Shop, click through our links, and see if something works for you there. So let's get into shape. This is tapered and directional, felt very centered on board in groomers and in powder, but it has a decent amount of directional float and setback on board. When it comes to the camber profile, this is very unique in the industry. Yes, there are a lot of spoon noses and tails and lifted sides in certain places in the effective edge throughout the industry, but this is its own unique thing. You have a shit ton of camber. You have a healthy boa camber. I can get like almost all of my fingertips underneath this and just lift it, no problem. But then as you start to get past the center, it starts to go like this and create a lift. And then it has a very exaggerated lift that you can see here. It's still a little difficult one footing off the chair, and it can be a little washy there, but overall it works okay, and it's better than continuous rocker and a lot of hybrid rocker boards that are rocker between the feet with a passive camber coming back down and not touching the snow, so it has that kind of feel. So looking at this on the table, you would see all this camber and you'd say this is a really unforgiving, catchy board, but it's not. It's incredibly forgiving. If you're a beginner and you have a lot of cash, hell, this won't be catchy. Any ability level can ride Bataleon boards because they're so damn forgiving. They're so easy to skid a turn when you get off your game. Now, when it comes to edge hold, this is just more of a standard traditional side cut. And with all this lifted tech, that makes it very challenging to hold an edge in harder snow. This, of all the Bataleon boards, was the worst for me because it was so wide I couldn't get to the edges and leverage it. But even if I was riding the right size, it would still not grip as well as mini boards. And it just didn't grip that well in comparison to every other board I tested them against. They were way behind the curve in terms of edge hold, so not very recommendable in hard to icy snow. This is more a good snowboard. Let's talk Bataleon Cameleon Flex. This, you would think, would be super stiff, but look at how this flexes. It's almost a medium flex. I'd say it's on the medium stiff side of medium. It's pretty stiff between the feet. There's a pretty stiff tail right here, but it does butter better than you would think on snow. And then the nose is a good bit softer. And here's the cool thing about TBT. This section right here is flat. So when you go to butter, it really brings you to this section, holds you there, and doesn't really engage this lifted tech right here. So it actually butters really well, and it's very different than most of the spoon noses. And when it comes to pop, This thing just pops. It has so much camber. So do all the Bataleon boards. It just ollies you higher and sends you further than any other board I've tried this year. Their pop is on another level. It's exceptional. Now, when it comes to uneven snow, this is kind of a double-edged sword. So even though it doesn't grip that well, it handled hard, micro-bumpy snow very well. This board has a level of dampness to it and a rubbery flex that can absorb chatter pretty well. The problem lies in this camber and this exceptional pop. This just bucks so easy. It almost always wants to get in the air, so when I would hit a patch of thick, wet, uneven spring powder and try to get through it, I often found myself out of my line I set for myself and in the air. I didn't want to be in the air, but it sent me there anyways. And it was a very unsettling feeling. I really had to slow down and be careful in those situations, especially in the trees. So when it comes to speed, the combination of the softer flex and the more turny side cut radius doesn't really work that well for straight lining. Because this was so wide for me and I was so far away from the edge and it gave me so much stability, I found that it could go fast okay, but if I sized it right, I wouldn't feel that way as much. It does pretty well for a board with a 6.95 meter side cut radius, and there might be some magic in the entry and exit points that's not in the specs, but overall, don't get this board to bomb. It's just gonna chatter a lot, especially in uneven snow. The base glide is pretty good. I liked it, especially when it was well waxed. When I first got it, it's not anymore after testing, but here's how it looks at the end of wax. If this is well waxed, it's gonna have very good, very easy base glide. It might not be the best of the best, but it's definitely at the top of the class, and it can take that report card home to mom and smile. I'm never a fan of die cut, and this will get some gashes over time, and you'll have to put black or clear P-Tex here, and it's not going to look good. But the rest of the base is going to be very easy to repair, and it's going to have good glide. So when it comes to turning, this did not initiate a turn easy for me. And like I said earlier in sizing, I'd much rather be on the 57 for this. That's a much better fit for me. But if you're sized correctly, this is going to be a medium to medium fast turner, and it's going to be pretty good edge to edge as long as the conditions aren't really thick, wet, and uneven. Then it'll buck and bounce around a lot, and it won't feel good in tight tree situations. If it's smooth and clean, I think it'll be just fine. And when you get it on edge, it has a very deep side cut, 6.95 meter radius. And so when you engage this onto the side cut, it's going to turn a circle carve really well if sized correctly. It was a bit challenging for me to really get this to turn well because of its width, but if I was on the right size, it would circle carve really well, across the groomer carve really well. It's going to be pretty good making kind of more middle radius. It's not going to really shine that well with those down the line, drivey, narrower S-turn kind of carves, but it'll be okay. And one thing about how you need to weight your turns with Bataleon boards, even though this is tapered and directional, this still felt like it needed more of a center weighted turn. You needed to either be like this, really wide out with your knees and moving this way, almost perfectly centered, or maybe a touch back towards the tail, or narrow, like how I like to ride. I tried both. This worked a little better for this board, but this still worked okay. When I went really far back, I didn't like the feel. I engaged too much of that TBT. It felt a little washy, and same with going forward towards the nose. The spring out of the turn in good conditions was exceptional, and I love the way this popped. It's special, but in hard snow, I couldn't even come close to even making a moderate carve. It just was too washy. Now, when it comes to powder, this 61 floated like it wasn't even trying in the spring snow I got. It wasn't that deep. but it was good to get a little taste to see what this could do. And again, I really didn't feel like I wanted to lean too far back in the board like I do with a lot of boards. Even though I'm not like burning my back leg, I just like to set it all the way back and kind of turn more from my back foot. I felt like I wanted to ride this centered even with its taper. And I'll say that this TBT here really creates a unique, floaty turning experience, and it counters all this massive camber and keeps you afloat. And you wouldn't think that would be the case. You would think you'd be struggling even on a tapered directional floaty shape like this. All this camber would scare you at first. But this TT that goes so far into the effective edge really keeps it lifted and planing above the snow. And when it comes to setback on board, this isn't the best board for people who like to ride really set back and directional on more directional, semi-surfy shapes like this. This is for those that like to ride centered, often ride switch, get lots of air, need lots of landing gear in the tail. So this is very much for those who like a centered ride. It still floats very well for being centered though. And this is a board you can ride switch. This is great for those people who like a tapered directional shape but want a mountain freestyle personality to it. I could see like rippers even jibbing with this. This will just launch off kickers so well, and I love that flat part in the middle of the tail and the nose. It allows you to flat base off a jump and even ollie off of it without the lifted sides washing you out like some spoon noses do. And you can load off the edge if you approach that jump center weighted, and it'll just spring off the jump in a way that most other boards just don't. Personally, not into riding this in pipe, but some could be. And overall, other than its bucky nature in soft uneven snow and its limited edge hold, this is a very unique ride. If you like that center weighted feel in a tapered directional board, you want to still take a mountain freestyle approach to riding. Ride a really tapered directional board switch and have it work well. This is a good choice, and it's super forgiving. So there you have it.
Howdy y'all, Davey boy here. Today I am talking about the Bataleon Cameleon from a big guy's perspective. I'm gonna start off by saying this board is beautiful. I love the way it looks. I really wanted to like this board, but the raised edges on this board are just a little too unhinged for me. It doesn't feel like a snowboard to me. The best analogy I had for it was like when you're growing up skating and you get on your buddy's board and his trucks are just insanely loose and you can't go up a ramp or do anything on that board. That's how I felt with this. Like a normal snowboard feels like it has an edge. This board felt edgeless, and I didn't like it in hardpack. I didn't like it on groomers. The turning experience in powder actually was decent, and when I had it in kind of softer end of day snow where it wasn't fully packed moguls, but when you turned, the snow kind of piled up and caught the edge, like you would get like a inch or two of snow under your board as you're turning, then it felt all right. But if there wasn't any extra snow to kind of push in and create like a leverage on the edge, then it just felt washy. It felt super twitchy, very hooky, and it just was not confident. I felt the whole time like this board, anytime I started getting speed, wanted to twitch and flip around. It felt like I was going to go switch at any moment. I really don't know what's going on with this tech. The only real positive I had from this thing was I did get a couple turns in some decent powder that were like kind of slashy on like a little bit of a wall type face, and those were good. But like down the line normal pow turns when you're going down the slope, it just felt off. I don't know, like the best analogy I have is just super loose trucks, like super loose trucks on a skateboard. Beastie's first experience with the Bataleon TBT, the raised edges, was very similar. And it took him about a week to get a feel for TBT and figure out how to weight his edges and really get through a turn. If you're someone looking for a very forgiving board and you don't see a lot of hard snow and you have the time to learn how to engage the edge on the TBT, this could be a fun board for you. But I just didn't have that much time, and honestly, not quite the desire either. This just isn't really my cup of tea.